You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
You know what they put in the water, don't you? Fluoride. On the pretext that it strengthens your teeth. That's ridiculous.
Hi, Steve here. Let me ask you a question. If you were a general and you only had two main roadblocks standing in the way of you winning a battle, wouldn't it be smart to go after those two targets or roadblocks first? Quite a while ago, I had this very sobering thought about the Antichrist and what a clever idea it was for Satan to allow him to take out one of the biggest roadblocks to taking over the world system. There are really only two countries that defend and represent mankind's freedom to live and work as they choose, and defend the right to live without tyranny and oppression for its people: Israel and America. Now, if you were the devil and your goal was to bring in your kingdom on earth, wouldn't you want the two countries blocking or hindering you from reaching that goal out of the way? Of course, if you voted for Obama in 2008, you were not a Christian then. Maybe you're still not. Maybe you think you are, but don't understand that to vote for a man or woman who is okay with killing babies, it's not the value that Christians share.
To answer the responsibility we're given in Proverbs to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute.
If you don't think Obama is the Antichrist, you may be right. If you think he is the Antichrist, you may be right. In Revelation chapter 13, we read several things about the Antichrist, the beast, and the false prophet. Verses 16 and 17 says, "He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, so that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." That takes away all freedom from mankind. You'll have no choice anymore. You won't worship any other but him. The free will that God gave mankind will be reduced to receive the mark, or basically die. Jesus told the disciples about the time we live in right now. He said in Matthew chapter 24, verse 6, "And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you're not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." Look at the countries that have such division within themselves. America is probably the best example. And there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places, he said. All these are the beginning of sorrows. We see all this happening at record levels. But then Jesus told them in Matthew chapter 24, verse 9, he said, "Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended. They'll betray one another, and they'll hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound," or increase, "the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations. And then the end will come." So we know from the Bible here that we are in the last days. But what about the Antichrist? When will we know who he is? I believe that those who are not under a spiritual blindness already know. What is a delusion? The dictionary says an idiosyncratic belief or impression that is firmly maintained despite being contradicted by what is generally accepted as reality or rational argument, typically a symptom of mental disorder. We see that in America right now. The action of deluding someone or the state of being deluded. How can America be given over to a spirit of delusion? Simple. By rejecting Jesus Christ and living in constant disobedience to His Word. We're spiritual reprobates in America. This was the open door for the greatest deception America has ever seen. The globalists, who are really Luciferians at the highest levels, had George Bush installed as president. He got us into a war with a country that had done nothing to us, but had something the globalists wanted. When it was time for us to elect a new president, we all looked at our slipping economy and we heard a man promising hope and change. We grabbed onto it. And since he was a smart black man, we thought, hey, he'll give us what we want and we'll make history with the first black president in America. Sounds great. It seemed wonderful. Here's what really happened. We voted in a man with a complete life of fiction. A total and complete lie from the beginning to even now. A delusion.
He contradicts himself on prompter. He'll say one thing about his family and his past and another thing about his family and his past, and they don't match. It's fiction. What most people don't know is the extent of the lies that we have been told. In retrospect, it seems as though everything that Barack Obama has said about his family has been carefully calculated and written and read off a teleprompter for political gain. Because almost none of it, think of this, almost none of it is true. What he says is false. Watch.
So the Kennedys decided we're going to do an airlift. We're going to go out to Africa. And we're going to start bringing young Africans over to this country and give them scholarships to study so that they can learn what a wonderful country America is. And this young man named Barack Obama got one of those tickets and came over to this country.
Okay, not true. John F. Kennedy wasn't even the president when Barack Sr. arrived in Honolulu to enroll at the University of Hawaii in 1959. Obama Sr. was able to take advantage of a program provided by Jackie Robinson and Harry Belafonte, but it was a fund for Africans. So why would he say the Kennedys did it? Because the timeline is wrong. Then there is the fable about his parents getting together as a result of the March on Selma, Alabama, in the same speech. Watch.
There's some good craziness going on because they looked at each other and they decided, we know that in the world as it has been, it might not be possible for us to get together and have a child. But something's stirring across the country because of what happened in Selma, Alabama, because some folks are willing to march across a bridge. And so they got together and Barack Obama Jr. was born.
That's a great story, but none of it is true. See, the problem with that one is that Barack Obama Jr. was born 4 years before the March on Selma took place.
I'm here because somebody marched.
No, you're not. You don't have a claim. You're not here because they marched. You were born before they marched. You were born in 1961, and the Selma March was 1965. So, Mr. President, where are you getting this story? You are not coming home when you come to Selma, Alabama.
Tonight is a particular honor for me because, let's face it, my presence on this stage is pretty unlikely. My father was a foreign student, born and raised in a small village in Kenya. He grew up herding goats, went to school in a tin roof shack. His father, my grandfather, was a cook, a domestic servant to the British.
It's not true. According to his father's wife, not true. Barack Sr. married Kezia when he was 18 and she was 16. Her parents were upset and wanted her to come back home. So Senior's father, his grandfather, gave Kezia's family 14 cows as a dowry. How many servants of the British masters have 14 cows in which to buy their son's wife? My father was a baker. He didn't have any cows or wouldn't have that kind of money to buy my wife. But Barack continued.
My parents shared not only an improbable love, they shared an abiding faith in the possibilities of this nation.
The love his parents shared is improbable. That much is absolutely true. Considering that Barack Sr. was still married to the aforementioned Kenyan woman named Kezia, who had 2 children with him. So it was improbable. So his dad comes over, while still married and 2 children over there, he comes over here. That's where he meets Barack's mother, Stanley Ann Dunham. Barack and Dunham never even shared the same residence. Not to mention the fact that 1 week after Barack was born, Barack's mom, Ann Dunham, took Barack away and left Hawaii to enroll at the University of Washington in Seattle, leaving Sr. behind. By the time she came back to Hawaii, Barack Sr. was already long gone, for good. First off to school in Boston, and then Harvard, and then he met somebody in Harvard. He married yet a 3rd woman named Ruth. And he took Ruth back to Kenya with him, where his first wife, whom he was still married to, waited. So he had 3 wives. So that, yes, I would agree that, I mean, he didn't really get into the details there, but yes, improbable love is probably a good word for it. But as far as his parents' abiding faith in the possibilities of this nation, this is where it really gets dicey. Anne lived much of her life in Indonesia and Pakistan and anywhere else but America. Barack Sr. got his free first-class education in Hawaii and then at Ivy League's Harvard, and then hightailed it back to Kenya, never to return to America. Other than a month-long visit to Hawaii when Barack Obama was 10, that was it. He accepted the priceless American education and then used it to benefit himself and Kenya. But how did he use it? To promote American ideals that he loved? No, he used it to promote his brand of socialism and communism in his homeland's government. At his star-making speech in 2004, Barack Obama said this.
They would give me an African name, Barack, or Blessed, believing that in a tolerant America, your name is no barrier to success.
Okay, that's great. That's the kind of thing that we all said, wow, that is great. This is a storybook. Exactly. It's interesting, because he went by the name Barry for most of his childhood, except for the exact opposite reason. Obama says his mother advised him not to switch from being called Barry to Barack for her fear that his African name would mean something very, very bad for him in America. So they didn't name him Barack because they had great love for America and respect, and they knew, no, when he tried to change it later when he was becoming a radical, she said, don't, you can't trust America. So which was it? It was fiction. Another unnerving racial story in Obama's brilliant and moving autobiography that showcased the racial division that he had overcome. In the book, he says, after the play was over, my friends started talking about black people, why they were so angry all the time. I said it was a matter of remembering. Nobody asked the Jews why the Jews remember the Holocaust. I think I said. And she said, that's different. And I said, it wasn't. And she said, that anger was just a dead end. And we had a big fight right there in front of the theater. When we got back to the car, she started crying. She couldn't be black, she said. She would if she could, but she couldn't. She could only be herself, and that just wasn't enough. When the press recently finally contacted this woman, she said, glad you called. Nothing like that ever happened. Oh, yeah, that's right, Barack Obama now admits. The girlfriend he was talking to was a compression. He was using a composite girl when describing his dates in New York.
I can no more disown him than I can disown my white grandmother, a woman who helped raise me, a woman who sacrificed again and again for me, a woman who loves me as much as she loves anything in this world, but a woman who once confessed her fear of black men who passed her by on the street.
No way.
And who on more than one occasion has uttered racial or ethnic stereotypes that made me cringe.
That's not true. Nobody says that about their grandmother and has to read it. If it's true, you look at the camera in the eye. You don't need to read that. This will be history someday. Someday all of this truth will come out. He could look at the American people directly in the eye through a teleprompter and flat out lie. over and over again, as he did in the debates with John McCain, as he did on one of the rare occasions when McCain brought up his seedy relationship with terrorist Bill Ayers.
So, and you launched your political campaign in Mr. Ayers' living room.
That's absolutely not true.
And the facts are facts and records are records.
That's not the...
It's not true? Yes, it is. It's an amazing work of fiction that you just watched. I'm just now beginning to understand what Bill Clinton meant when he said, it's a fairy tale. And he's not talking about a black man becoming president. It's that this man's life is a fairy tale. It's a fable. It's made up stories. I wish these things weren't true, because when you really start to unravel all this stuff, something sinister is here. We have somebody who's had their entire life fictionalized.
Why did he lie habitually and consistently? Why was everything he ever said a total fabrication? The same reason Jesus told the Pharisees this. It's the same reason I say this about Barack Obama. In John 8:44, he said, you belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out his desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, refusing to uphold the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language because he is a liar and the father of lies. The Apostle Paul wrote in 2 Thessalonians, let no one deceive you by any means, for the day of the Lord will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. The great apostasy, it means the leaving or departing away from standing on the truth. It implies desertion, literally a leaving from a previous standing, and that would be of Christianity. And now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time, Paul said, for the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. The Common English Bible translates it this way. The hidden plan to live without any law is at work now, but it will be secret only until the one who is holding it back is out of the way. And then the lawless, the disregard for proper authority, he will be revealed. In the Greek, that means uncovered, revealing what is hidden, veiled, or obstructed, especially its inner makeup, to make plain or manifest, particularly what is invisible, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteousness, deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this reason, God will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. We see this in our world today. We see the lawless in America fighting those who respect law. Daniel 21 has many details about the Antichrist, but one thing that stands out is in verse 21. It says, and in his place shall arise a vile person, to whom they will not give the honor of royalty, but he shall come in peaceably and seize the kingdom by intrigue. In the Hebrew, it means flattery, smoothness, hypocrisy. He's a hypocrite. He says one thing, but he does another. Daniel 7:19 through 25 says, then I wished to know the truth about the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron and its nails of bronze, which devoured, broke in pieces, and trampled the residue with its feet. This is the prophet Daniel speaking. Verse 20, and the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn which came up, before which 3 fell, namely, that horn which had eyes and a mouth which spoke pompous words, whose appearance was greater than his fellows. 21, I was watching, and the same horn was making war against the saints, and prevailing against them. until the Ancient of Days came and a judgment was made in favor of the saints of the Most High. And the time came for the saints to possess the kingdom. Verse 23, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on the earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, trample it, and break it in pieces. The 10 horns are 10 kings, or 10 rulers, who shall arise from this kingdom, and another shall rise after them. He shall be different from the first ones, and shall subdue 3 kings. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High. He'll persecute the saints of the Most High, and will intend to change times and law. Then the saints shall be given into his hand for a time, and times, and half a time. That would be 3.5 years. In Daniel chapter 11, verses 36 through 38, it says, the king will do whatever he wants. He will exalt himself, making himself greater than any god. He will say unbelievable things against the God of gods. He will succeed until the doom is completed, because what is decreed must take place. He shall regard neither the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman
we
president?
already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a
I'm sorry, she's a what?
a transgender. We all know.
Oh my God.
Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
Nor regard any God, for he shall exalt himself above them all. In their place, he will worship a God of walled fortresses, with gold and silver, rare stones, and precious things. He will worship a God his fathers did not acknowledge. Obama gave a 9/11 speech in which he quoted Psalm 46. Of all the verses in the Bible he could have used, he chose the one that includes this verse.
Be still and know that I am God.
In Luke 10:18, Jesus said, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Jesus spoke in Aramaic, the most ancient form of Hebrew. From the Strong's Hebrew Concordance, the word lightning in Hebrew is word 1299. It's pronounced barak. In Isaiah 14:12 through 19, it talks about Satan. Isaiah 14:14 says, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. The Hebrew word for heights from which Satan fell is 11:16, bama, pronounced bama. In Hebrew, the letter wa or wa is often transliterated as a U or O. It's used as a conjunction to join concepts together. So Barak O, Bama, or Bamu translates literally as lightning from the heavens or heights. It's a stunning truth.
Obama is causing civil unrest in this country.
Is there a message for us in God's Word about the identity of the Antichrist? We'll see. Think about it. Hi, Steve here. I just want to thank you. If you're one of my great subscribers, I just want to thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe to the channel. As soon as you do, you'll always be notified of the most recent videos that I do. If you haven't been to our website, it's thinkaboutit.online. Thanks again for subscribing to Think About It.
Oh yeah. Tractor beam. Sucked me right in.